and welcome to the first ever, the inaugural episode of the Wrexham Legends Lounge podcast in association with Hill Street Social, who a venue we hope to be in very soon as and when rules and regulations are lifted. And what better way to get this new podcast off running? This is going to be every week or every fortnight. We're going to have a new guest on there, a former player associated with the Wrexham Legends group. And it's Mr. Mark McGregor today. Maka, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us for this. It's a big one.
Yeah, I'm excited to doing it. It's my first one I've ever done, to be honest. So a bit nervous, just like my first ever game, probably for Wrexham. But,
that's loads to touch on there with your first ever game, to be fair. I should probably say that the Wrexham Legends, it's a group put together by John P.D. Morris and a bunch of former players.
Youngish, oldish.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You're not too far off me, mate, I'll be honest. I realised that. Put together by John Morris and a group of former players, raising money for charities, local charities, playing local teams with friendlies. Hopefully, we'll be able to get back to playing some games before the year's out, at least. And like I said, hopefully we'll be able to do this at some point in time in Hill Street Social with a pint and an audience, which would be good. But for now, it's me and you and the people, the masses out on the internet listening and watching online as and when this goes out. So 244 games for the town, 11 goals, I believe. That's what the internet's telling me. I was there for a good few of those. But how did Mark McGregor end up playing for Wrexham?
Yeah, really strange, to be honest. I was at Crewe for a little bit, going along down there, and for some reason it just didn't fit with me right. And there was a chance for me to come down to Wrexham and play a few games. And obviously I'm a Chester lad, and the thought of going Wrexham could have been a bit weird, but for some reason it just went really well ever since I went there when I was I think I was 14 at the time.
Yeah.
On the AstroTurf opposite the ground, and loved it that much that I just obviously stayed there until I left eventually. But it was great. I mean, I liked it that much that I was cycling up from Chester all the way up to take training at Wrexham. So it was like a good, 15-mile bike journey back in the day, up Grassford Hill, etc. So nice. No, it was really, really good. Was
there ever any chance at all at some point that if you go into Chester? I mean, like you said, you're a local Chester lad. You live in Chester.
Absolutely nothing. No, no.
And did you get any?
Go on, sorry.
I was saying, did you get any stick off any of your mates at all? Like when obviously you signing for, I guess, the deadly rivals, as it were.
Not as much the early years, but obviously 17, 18, 19. That's when it really kicked in, getting stick off the lads. Yeah. But that's all part of it, and you take it in your stride. And I liked it because it made you want to prove to them more that you was at a better team, if you want to say that way.
Oh, I suppose that was a point when we were kind of to and fro in. Both teams were kind of up and around the same division. I would drop it down and coming back up in Chester's case. So it's. I mean, what about the Chester game, the FA Cup game when Carl got his 2 and we won 2-0? How was that for you as a Chester lad?
It was brilliant because I had to come through Chester to meet the lads up at the Post House roundabout.
Yeah.
So I was coming through all the traffic to trying to get on the bus to come back all the way through back into Chester. But it was more me. I think my family got more of the brunt than I did at the game, to be honest. And all my mates were in the crowd, and obviously it was all standing back then as well. It was good, but I can't visually or hearing anything that was aimed at me back in the day. But my mum said she heard quite a lot towards herself and my other parts of the family, etc. But it's football, isn't it? That's everybody misses it now, and if it wasn't part of it that then, people wouldn't have got so up, and they celebrate as they do, which is what's missing now.
Yeah, it's still weird to watch. Just watch it on the TV and there's no fans. And obviously there was the brief time where English clubs got fans back in the ground at some point in the last year, but the Welsh teams didn't. So it's like Wrexham still just play behind closed doors, home and away. Hopefully that's something changes on that front by the time of next season. But I guess we'll see on that one. But it's going back and watching some old footage of the time when it was a time when I started going myself, me and my mates, to get the train from Buckley to go and watch Wrexham, and it was kind of coincided, not too different, but at the time you broke into the first team, and just going back and watching the old footage and seeing the crowd reactions and the away reactions, because that FA Cup run comes up, the 96-97, and there's the famous shot of this old fella at the end of the Birmingham game after Carl's goal goes in, and he's giving it this on the fence. It's absolutely brilliant to watch. But how was it for you getting into the first team? Because I didn't realise it was like 18 you were when you made your debut, and you went on to play, I think it was like 42 games in that season, which is a lot for somebody going into the team straight away at that age.
Yeah, I think my debut was the last game of the season before.
Right.
It was Cambridge. We got beat 1-0. Carlo Corazin, I think, scored the goal for Cambridge. And that was, I didn't really know I was playing until the Friday, possibly even the Saturday, thinking about it back now. And to play, in front of fans that big was an eye-opener, to say the least. But it just encouraged you to get more, and you go away through the summer and you think about it, you come back in and you're all fresh and you just really want to attack the season head on. I think it was a couple of games until I got, because I think it was back in them days, there was only like 2-3 subs.
Yeah, 3.
So it was difficult to break into the bench. And then I eventually got me chance. And as I said, I was playing centre half for the reserves and etc. back then. But there was a chance at right back, and then it was everything happened to there. To be fair, I didn't associate me as a right back until I eventually went right back into Wrexham first team.
See, I always thought it was the other way around, where because obviously just seeing you playing right back for so many years, and then that final season for us, you moved to centre half and got player of the season.
Yeah.
I just presume that was, I don't know, like a later on thing where like, we need someone to cover in at centre half. Mac will do, and he's done a really good job. So that was like through youth football, through the junior football, that was where you were mainly playing with centre back.
Yeah, I was playing in Wrexham reserves up in, or probably younger than that, up at Lindisfarne, and we were playing in the Welsh Cymru Alliance back in then, and I was always centre half, and the reserves still playing centre half, and yeah, it was weird. I don't know, I can't remember the situation, but either Barry Jones or Darren Brace wasn't available, and I think it was Bournemouth away maybe, that I come on at half time and right back, and that was pretty much set in stone then for the next like 5-6 years.
Yeah. When did you like kind of, I guess, almost get the confidence where that was your position? You felt like you were the first choice, because like you said, there was Darren, there was Barry Jones was still around at times, and he played centre half at times, and Darren had played left back, and there was you two were either side, you and Darren, and Phil Hardy would be on the left. And so when did you kind of feel comfortable that like, if everybody's fit, I'm the first choice here at right back?
Not till probably halfway through that season.
Yeah.
Like I played maybe 10 games, and then I used to look at the programme thinking, I've got 1, 2, 7 appearances, 9 appearances, 10 appearances. And I'm like, yeah, I want loads more of these appearances, and I want to play every game, whether it be right back, which was I pretty much got a gist of, and I was loving it because you could attack. Because when I was playing for Blacon back in the Chester youth leagues, I was a striker, so it was different to be a defender. And then so it was I like playing right back because you could get forward as well. That was it.
Who would you say would be like the biggest influence on your career at that kind of young age? Because obviously Brian Flynn was there as manager, Joey Jones, Kevin Reeves was there as the assistant. Who influenced you most, especially I guess when you were put in at right back?
Yeah, obviously don't forget Cliff as well. Cliff Sears.
Oh, Cliff Sears,
As a YTS and everything else, he was brilliant for me. But it was always Joey. You look to Joey, and he would look at you and said, his eyes and his face expressions, if you missed the tackle or you wasn't going in for the tackle full-blooded, etc. That was the big one. But Cliff was brilliant for us, and everybody would say the same about Cliff. But probably into the first team levels, it was always Joey for me, because he was a defender, and we always had a laughing joke about the strikers are always the best, and we're just the ham and eggers, and we're there to put our body on the line, kind of thing. And that was the best thing for me, to be fair, with Joey.
Yeah, with Cliff Sear, because he was one of those that was very much, I guess for me as a young fan going as a early teens, he was one that was kind of out the picture behind the scenes, because you'd see Joey on the touchline and Kev Reeves, you'd have Flinney be up in the stands. And it was only when it was Cliff Sears' testimonial that I kind of really first heard about him. And I think it was Man City we played, and Chris Armstrong came back and played for Wrexham.
That's right, yeah.
And it was just like, that's where it's like, oh, this guy must be quite important. So what role did, for people who maybe aren't aware of Cliff Sears, what role did he really play then for you? Well, for the kids coming through?
Yeah, he kept all the youngsters in check. You know what I mean? He was always round the place, and everybody loved him. And, you know, if you seen him about the place, if you was trying to do something not appropriate at the football stage, you'd stop what you was doing.
Yeah.
Because that's how much he was appreciated at that level. And, you know, he'd drive the minibus and stuff like that. It was like, and just do everything for you, but to keep you in check as well, which was great back in them, because you could have went a bit out of line, but it was he was the one that, you know, that guided me definitely in my early years before the first team.
Yeah. And with Joey, when I was going back and watching some of the old stuff, I think it might have been the lead up to the Birmingham game. There was a TV package being put together, and it was Joey smashing, I think it might be Phil Hardy, just in like a warm up in training, just going through him and then go like, there you go, there's a studs. How many times has Joey gone through you over the years?
Well, he always used to join in training. So it was usually on the Fridays, young v old, and nobody ever wanted to lose.
Yeah. So
it was pretty much all hands to the pump, and trying to protect yourself, because obviously you wanted to play the next day as well. But you didn't want to lose the five-a-side game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I remember the Joey Jones thing. It was practicing block tackles. I mean, if you practice block tackles today, I don't think any manager, would be too happy with that, especially a couple of days before you play on the Saturday. But it was one of them things, because most of the team back then was old school, if you know what I mean by that. So there was when the foreigners come, like 97 onwards, it started to change with Arsene Wenger, etc. But it was more of a old school, and it was like block tackling. It was, I liked it, to be fair, because sometimes you could let out a bit of a fight in you if you was having a bad week in training, or you'd lost the match before and you wanted to try and get a bit of rile in you ready for the game on Saturday. So it was good, to be fair. I like that, the way Joey went about them kind of things.
Yeah, and it's like, just from like speaking to a few of the former players over the years, like everybody loves Joey, and why not? Like, fans love Joey. He was. I've heard it said by Liverpool fans over the years that he's that fan on the pitch. And for Wrexham fans, he was that fan on the pitch and the fan on the sideline on the coaching staff. And it's that passion that made him the player he was, and clearly the figure he was. It just seems like nobody ever has a bad word to say about Joey Jones. It's just, he is Mr. Wrexham.
That's it, yeah. And he always will be, you know, in everybody's eye. And, you know, I hope, just for his sake, that we eventually get back into the Football League, because it'll spearhead that again, and hopefully they can get a banner made up for him, etc.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if the COP comes ahead and gets the go ahead for what I believe is coming, that'll be brilliant for it as well.
Yeah. Well, what do you make of all the takeover news? The fact we've got these new Hollywood owners, Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds. I guess, obviously it's great to see, but like, that would have been cool for you in your day, where you get, you know, all the facilities getting done up. You can have this, hopefully, a nice ground to play in, which the Racecourse is a beautiful ground, period. But like, how do you think, for like a player's mentality, how's that, to think of, right, not only we've got these new owners in, we've got this these new owners of such a high status worldwide, that the club is in the global spotlight?
I always see it as, when we were in the spotlight for the FA Cup runs, etc., you know, some of the lads went on to Blue Peter, which was back in the day was really good.
Yeah.
And we were selling players, but that helped us to buy Collier's Park.
Yeah.
And them training ground features and everything for a club like Wrexham back in the day was marvellous. And, you know, Brian Flynn always wanted something like that, and he did brilliant to get it. And I think it helped us on our way to do what we did after them. I know we didn't eventually get any promotion or win any cups, apart from obviously the Welsh Cups and stuff, but to have a group of lads in all one place and you've got all the facilities in front of you. It was eye opener for me because I never expected it, because we would always turn up to the ground and then going off to different variations of training grounds. But that was brilliant, and I was really impressed by how that come about, to be fair.
Yeah. I was, again, me and my mates were talking about this when they found out that this was happening, and we were kind of reminiscing about those years you talk about in the FA Cup run, and it kind of got brought up, like, weren't like a bunch of the lads on Blue Peter? And then I looked into it, and it was, I think it was Joey, Brian Hughes, I think Tony Humes. Yeah, and I think there was somebody else. Might be in Carl, actually. Might be in Carl Conley. Which is just like, and then the question is like, well, did they get a Blue Peter badge? I think that's what people need to know, which I guess I'll have to ask them on that one.
I'm almost sure, I'm positive they did, to be fair.
Brilliant. Amazing. Sure. I think that's the least they get, because I'm sure they give Tim Vincent a Wrexham shirt because he was a Wrexham fan. I think he still lives in the area. So that seems like a fair trade-off. Is a Wrexham shirt. We're on TV. Give us some badges.
Blue Peter badge.
Yeah. With Flinny, one thing that always, Brian Flynn, it was one thing that maybe, I don't know, some fans always found a bit strange to deal with, was the fact he was in the stand for so much of so many games. How was that as a player? I mean, because obviously Flinny was all you knew at Wrexham as a manager, but was that just the norm for you, or did that seem, I don't know, as long as it's working, I guess?
Yeah, because you can only have so many people shouting instructions on you. We've done all the prep and etc. before the game. And obviously the higher viewpoint you've got, you'll be able to see other instructions that you can give us at half time. And, you've got Joey and Kev down there, and, even Mel and Steve, the physios as well. They're all shouting things on at you, and they're more of an ego, and you're like, come on, you've got to do better, etc. But obviously Brian was upstairs trying to analyse where we could do better and which situation we could help better. So, everybody's different, and I respected that, because I didn't see because Joey would always be the vocal one anyway, you know what I mean? So, and it was good. It was good because you're getting three different viewpoints from other areas of the pitch. So, obviously, you had Joey as a defender, Kevin striker, and Flinny midfielder. Yeah. So you had three of the best worlds, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And I think with Flinny, it was only the fans only started to question it when results started to turn in his last year or so. And before that, it wasn't really. It was like, oh yeah, there's Flinny in the stands, but it wasn't really brought up as a negative because we were doing well. The two seasons, 96, 97, 97, 98, where it was just off the playoffs. I think it was 4 points off the first year. The second time was goal difference.
Goal difference.
Yeah, I think Fulham won the playoffs that year when they had all the money thrown at him and Kevin Keegan as manager. I'd imagine. Yeah. Is it, because to me, I look back though at those seasons now, and they were, in my time watching Wrexham, they were some of the glory years, even though it maybe didn't seem at the time because it was just coming short. Is it hard as a player to appreciate at the time how well you'd done that season or is it just kind of outweighed by the disappointment of being so close but so far?
I think it was like 10 games to go, I think, then where we finally hit a bit of form, and we just went on a really good run. And you're going into the last like 3 games and you're thinking, we've got a chance here, and you go 2, and then your last game and you're like, I think it was Bristol Rovers who we needed to get ahead of. I think they beat us on goal difference in the end. I think Kevin Dearden, who signed us a couple of years later or whatever, he was playing in goal for Brentford. And I think it was like 10 minutes after our game had finished that we didn't realise that we weren't going to be in the playoffs because what happened to their game. Because we did our job, I think, at Southend. Was it 3-1?
Yeah, that's it.
But they were 10 minutes over. And we was like a bit up and down. One of them scenarios where, what's happening? Do we know what's happening? But yeah, we really wanted it bad that season because of what we'd been through and what we'd done. And it was unfortunate because would have been a great day out, obviously playoffs, and then if you could get to Wembley, etc. Because I always think we missed the boat to try and do that at Wembley when we was in the Auto Windshields game.
Yeah,
it was to Wigan for the 2 legs, and everybody wants to play at Wembley, and I thought that was my one of my best chances to play at Wembley.
Yeah.
And I think they beat us, was it 5-3 over 2 legs in the area final, which it was back then, which was a big disappointment for me. But the playoffs was a bit gutting that as well, but not as gutting as obviously the quarter final.
Well, to me, I think the only thing that I could think of at the time that reminds me of that whole playoff situation was when Man City won the league for the first time, and you had the Man United players on the pitch. I think it was Sunderland, and they had about 5 or 6 minutes where they thought they'd won the league, and they were waiting for the City result to come through, and then you had the big Aguero when he smashes it against QPR, and that reminded me of the Wrexham bit where everybody kind of thought that that's it, the playoffs are boxed off, as it were, but wasn't to be on that one. But you mentioned the FA Cup quarter final, and that run. It was a mad run because of like how it started off, where we like just scraped through past Colwyn Bay over 2 legs that were both at the 2 legs over a replay that were both at the Racecourse, and then it was, I'm sure the Scunthorpe Cup game went to a replay and Steve Morris scored when the keeper made an arse of it. But then it kind of got going at the West Ham game. There was Peterborough with Rooster getting 2 and having his little dance. And the Birmingham game, which is still one of my favourite probably is my favourite all-time Wrexham game. And then obviously Chesterfield. How was that to be like that run? Because I saw an interview with Brian Hughes, from a very young Brian Hughes from back then, and he was talking about how, because the league form was a bit up and down at that point in time, but it just seemed to, when it came to the FA Cup, it was just once things got to go. Once we got past Colwyn Bay and Scunthorpe, things started going. How was that just going into those FA Cup games compared to the league games? Because it did seem like there was obviously not a different mentality, but just things seemed to click more for the cup games.
Well, once again, I was like, everybody watches the FA Cup growing up and you just want to do the best. I wasn't really involved in the first couple of games, Colwyn Bay games, etc.
The ones we struggled in. I like that. Wasn't involved in them.
And I was more got into it, and then obviously we played the West Ham in the snow. And what it was with that one, I think it kind of helped us in a way, because we drew West Ham, and then we went up to their place to play the replay, and it was called off because of the fog. And then literally all the fans were getting there, and we had arrived, and then the fans bus didn't even make it because they got told it was called off. So they had to turn around and come home, and we didn't even play. Yeah. So we ended up playing in the 4th round, where it should have been the 4th round game. And then we literally, because we beat West Ham then we just literally bounced into the Peterborough game, which really helped us, I think, because you got a bit of momentum about you. And then because we were still playing catch-up, we kind of bounced into the Birmingham game. Yeah. So I think it was all like a World Cup kind of thing, or the Euros, where you win one, you win. I think it was they were all quite close together, and that's what helped us really like get the momentum to raise yourself for a really big game to get obviously further and further through.
Well, with that West Ham one, again, that's one of my most enjoyable games to go to, just because of I guess the uniqueness of it, the one in the snow, the home game with the orange ball, and it was just like a mad game to watch. Like that game would never go ahead like these days at all.
No, no.
But what was it like after the game, as a player, as a Wrexham player, when like Harry Redknapp comes out, and I think it was, well, we'll beat him on grass next time, sort of thing, being a bit of an arse about it. How did that get taken in the dressing room?
I think we were more enjoying it that we were just sliding around in the snow as youngsters, kind of thing, and we were letting ourselves go, because we didn't really thought, what we did think was, brilliant, we're going to go and play at a Premier League ground here now. That was my first thought to come into my head. You're going to go to West Ham, play in a Premier League ground, and anything could happen. I didn't really take too much notice of the after what West Ham had said or anything, to be honest. The older players might have done, but me as a youngster, I was like more of, we just drew against West Ham here, brilliant, going to play them, at a Premier League ground. It was more when we played the replay and we did beat them eventually. I think he got sacked after the game, or the next day. But all the fans outside, we were trying to get the bus out, and they were all standing there shouting for his name, and that was my first kind of insight of what fans could be, to get after obviously a manager or a player if the team wasn't doing very well, which was, especially West Ham, obviously London is down there, it was a bit frightening at some stage, because think the Windows did get attacked a little bit, maybe.
It was a weird atmosphere because it was the West Ham fans. I'm sure they got on the pitch at one point and they kind of come up to more or less the halfway line.
Back off,
and then they were basically applauding the Wrexham fans. So it's like, obviously they're clearly pissed off, but they were appreciating the Wrexham fans that made the trip, the fact that the smaller club had kind of overcome the Premier League team. But it was just like so much hate in the game, but all directed at Harry Redknapp and the board. And like I said, I don't think he lasted
possibly most of the fans were wanting them to get beat so they could get a new manager, which is a shame for Harry because he's a great fella, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, he went on to do all right for himself still. Even now, he still gets linked with half of the jobs that go available. Harry Redknapp and Sam Allardyce are in for it. But to kind of jump over the Peterborough game, because that was a great one. But that was on, I think it was a Tuesday night. Obviously, it was away. I've been a kid, I couldn't get to that one. But the Birmingham one on the weekend, which
just a quick one on the Peterborough game.
I think,
my mum went to that game, and I think there was a small fire in the section of the stadium, I think there was. And this is what my mum's always said, and the missus, and somehow they put it out, and it was in the far end of the ground in one of the corners. And I don't know if anybody else can clarify that, but somehow they put it out, and we carried on. But I don't think that would even happen these days, to be honest, would they?
Well, if anyone knows about that, pop it in the little comments underneath this video, or just crack it onto Twitter with.
Just want to make sure my mum's not lying.
You've held on to this for like 20 years. Like, I don't trust her on this one. But that was. It's like almost gets glossed over, that game, as I just did there, because it was away. It's on a Tuesday. Obviously, it wasn't on the TV. So for a lot of Wrexham fans, especially the younger ones, it was just, you see the goals on TV. You see Kev Russell get 2, and he has his little moonwalk down the touchline. And then it's like, well, what's next? And it was Birmingham, which is, I don't know, they were this highly thought of, what would be now the Championship, the First Division side. Anders Limpar in the team, Steve Bruce, Ian Bennett in nets, Paul Devlin. I think Gary Ablett was there as well at the time. That just like this team of quality players for that level, let alone our level. But we bossed that game, I thought. Even, obviously, they had Paul Devlin sent off. They had 10 men. But I just thought that was one of the most composed Wrexham performances as a team, and especially against this. Well, I guess we'd be the underdogs in that one. How was that to be a part of? And like, how was it? Just, it seemed like there was a calmness about the team, but also a bit of bite, because it was a feisty game.
Yeah, it was, but it was. I think it was February. It was the day before my birthday. I'll never forget it, to be fair, because we never, as you said, we never feel threatened. I know Steve Bruce scored, etc. But we was the whole thing about it. I think I'm not sure what was maybe their manager again, but it felt like we were all always gonna win the game, regardless. Because when you see you're playing and you've got all them fans behind the goal, as you said, when where most of the goals were scored, it was just brilliant to watch. Because as me as the defender, I can see all the attackers going forward. And you was thinking, oh, we're going to score here, we're going to score here, we're going to score here. And eventually they come and they still score. And it's like, we didn't, as I said, even in the latter stages, I know Carl scored, I think, was it injury time? Or
right at the end, just Brian Carey with a big hoof.
2-1. We weren't hanging on. It was like, they were chucking stuff at us, but it was never like hitting crossbars or, oh, that was close kind of thing. We was quite, as you said, quite composed, and it was the feeling when when Carl trickled it in. Yeah, he'll like me for saying that. It was brilliant, because you knew, like, quarter-final FA Cup, bloody hell, we're getting close here. And the celebrations after it, and as I said, it was my birthday the next day, so it was a good weekend for me, to be fair. Really good. It
was probably his most, one of his least glamorous goals, because Carl scored the odd screamer now and again, but it was like, just, I think I speak for a lot of Wrexham fans, that's one of the greatest goals in our history. And it was just the fact that when Carl kind of toe pokes it, to be fair, past Ian Bennett, and he's like on his heels, like rocking, waiting for it to go in, like, come on, please. And all the fans were doing the exact same thing. It was just, what a time to be alive.
Well, Carl went past the centre half. I think it was Michael Johnson, was it, maybe?
Yeah, that's it. That was it.
But I think he had an hamstring injury at a minute. So if Carl ever tells you, like, he sped past him, I don't think that was the case. I think he was injured, and he got through, and as he said, it was going wide at first, I think, and then it somehow it had a couple of divots and just bobbled in, which is brilliant for us. It was amazing, yeah.
So it's the worst goal ever against the crock of a centre half. That's what we're going with. and it's so took hit a divot and went in. All right, okay. Yeah. I'll let him know that one.
We'll go with that one.
Yeah, but like Tony Humes' header in that game though was just I have no idea how he got that in.
The way he launched his head back and just flicked it around. It was brilliant. But it was Wardy's delivery obviously as well. Yeah, it's like they were always like on point. To be fair to him.
Yeah, even now, like when people talk about the all-time kind of Wrexham great 11s, which by the way, we'll get to Mark McGregor's all-time Wrexham greatest 11 shortly.
Difficult.
Yeah, difficult. But Wardy's one that always seems to be in and around with Wrexham fans, just because he wasn't there for a massively long time, but it was just the quality he had when he was here. The deliveries on free kicks, on set pieces, just his passing in general, just like a joy to watch.
Well, yeah, he was quite hard with me, to be fair, which was a good thing, because he was saying a fullback should be one of the best passers in the club, and I try to be a better passer, you try to learn off the old brigade because they've been through it and they know everything about them. But yeah, Wardy was brilliant the way he went about everything, this training and etc. And as I said, his free kicks, deliveries, and his passing was second to none.
Yeah, and that Birmingham game, it seemed to be that was the game that got Brian Hughes' move to Birmingham, but obviously it come after we got knocked out the FA Cup. When did you think that with Gazza, because again, just such a quality player, that team was full of great players. But when did you kind of realise as players that like Gazza's going here, sort of thing? He's going to make the move, and it would be to Birmingham at that higher level. I think going to play Premier League. Yeah,
I think it was a couple of games after where I think Trevor Francis maybe come and watch the game. He did a couple of jinks and then he chipped the keeper from 20 yards. I can't remember who it was against at home. Scunthorpe, somebody like that. But you knew then that he wouldn't be here long. He would go on and then go on again. Because technically in his ability to run with the ball and break free and just be in the right place at the right time in the goal area, as that FA Cup run proved.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to lose him, but obviously I'm happy for that. Like he was he where he ended up, that's where he deserved to be.
Yeah, well, I think he played, like, in the end, it was probably a good 3 or 4 years in the Premier League with Birmingham, and then with Charlton. It might have been 5 years, and he didn't look out of place there. What was it, 1.3, 1.4 million, whatever it was, which is a lot of money, a lot of money then. But I mean, if we talk about the FA Cup run, we have to talk about Chesterfield, which was it was so disappointing initially to have got that far and then to go out against a team that were basically our sort of level, to go to beat the bigger teams and then to go out against them, but to get to an FA Cup quarter final, to have taken out the teams we've taken out, which is such a massive achievement. But like, how hard was that to swallow, and when did you start to appreciate how far you'd actually got though?
Never, not now, to be honest, because you wanted to go further. The draw was terrible. You know, I wanted another Premier League club. You had Chelsea's in there and Middlesbrough, and you just didn't want. That was the one place I didn't want to go, to be honest. I would have preferred to went away to Chelsea and got knocked out that way, but to go away to Chesterfield, obviously they, probably on the day they did actually probably deserve to win, which was disappointing. But the draw was terrible for us. And I didn't like the way it was set up for us. Like, it was 11:30 kickoff. It was terrible. We'd never been used to like anything like that before. So you're having your pre-match meal at like 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Which is, and like, how you're supposed to stomach like chicken or eggs or anything that early, getting ready for a football game. I know you'd have your eggs on a Sunday morning about that time, but not in preparation for a football game. And we were out the FA Cup at like 1:30 on a Sunday morning. It's like, it just didn't sit right with me, to be honest. It was like, I know now you play all for the TV, etc., but I would have preferred 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday, proper FA Cup quarter final. I thought we would have more chance of going through that way, but they had to do the same thing. That's what sticks in my head. To be fair, just the 11:30 kickoff. It was terrible.
What was, not to be all down and gloomy, but what was more disappointing, the FA Cup quarter final or the missing out on the playoffs on goal difference?
FA Cup quarter final for me personally, because growing up, you watch the FA Cup. You don't necessarily watch lower league levels. You watch the Premier League, and you don't associate with the playoffs until you're actually involved with it.
Yeah.
But for me, it was the quarter final, because you want all the headlines, don't you? You don't get so much headlines if you get into the playoffs. You might get the headlines if you win the playoffs, but not so much if you just creep into the playoffs. But the FA Cup was brilliant.
Yeah.
Even a couple of years after, we still had good runs, and probably could have went further in a couple of them as well. The Wimbledon game, and I think it was the Rotherham at home. After we beat Middlesbrough, I think that was a bit disappointing as well.
Yeah, the Wimbledon was. I remember just being the really weird final whistle at the Wimbledon one, where I think they took a corner and scored off it, but the referee blew his whistle while the ball was in the air. Thinking, really, I'll take it. Yeah.
I got, to be fair, that's one of the only man of the matches I've probably got during my career.
Really?
So I've still got the bottle downstairs. I've got the for the 0-0 draw at Wimbledon. Yeah, but obviously if they allowed that goal, I probably wouldn't have got it.
It's all about that clean sheet. This was like a time though for Wrexham where we had like some Welsh internationals. If they weren't like internationals, they were thereabouts in the squad or on standby. Like Andy Marriott obviously got a couple of caps. Stevie Watkin was in and around. Like there was like Steve Watkin, there was Wayne Phillips, Gareth Owen, Darren Brace, Lee Jones when he was back on loan at times, who were kind of in the squad or on standby at times. I don't know the heritage of yourself, but was there ever any chance of you being eligible for Wales? This is at a time when like Vinnie Jones was playing for Wales because his nan went to Rome.
No, that's right, yeah. No, Brian made us check, to be fair. Brian Flynn, made us check all our backgrounds, etc. But for me, no, there was nothing ever that was going to perhaps go down that route due to me heritage. But to be fair, Joey knows that I am quite English, but there was no. To be fair, there wasn't even nothing. I know Vinny got in some way, but there was nothing I could have done anyway.
Yeah. I'm sure I remember in the story that Flinney had a word with Carl as well. I tried to get Carl Conley to play for Wales, like just trying to find out if there's any way possible. Like, is there anyone in the family? Just to. Before we move away from Wrexham, because there was a career after Wrexham, but one player that is like this kind of cult favourite of so many fans, but I think he only played like 13 games, but had such a massive impact. Mark Wilson. How was it when he came in? Because it came in from Man United on loan. The story is that we got offered him for 100 grand and Flea said, no, we'll take him on loan. Then tried to sign him and we were quoted $1 million. So I don't know if that's true, but how was he when he came in? Because he just seemed to, that 97-98 season, have a massive impact on the team with, I think, 7 goals in his 13 games, 14 games, whatever it was from midfield.
I think it was more the replacement for Yozza, to be fair.
Yeah.
It was like he had the feet, the ability to glide past players, and I think maybe his best game was against Burnley. Maybe I think he scored a goal. But when he come in, he did lift the lads, because you think, player from Man United here, we're going to have to kind of raise our game kind of thing. So, who's watching him when they're coming to watch Mark, if you know what I mean? Yeah. So you did raise your game, but he was he was a good lad as well, to be fair. He was good, he wasn't thinking, I'm too good for this level kind of thing. He was honest and decent. I think the Wrexham fans did like him quite a lot, to be fair. Because, as you said, he scored goals and he created a lot as well. And he was a good impact at the time when we needed it.
Yeah. It's like years later, there was, after your time there, was Scott Green came in and did a similar job in the promotion year that we had, where he came in and just give that extra boost just to kind of get it over the line. And it seems like Mark Wilson,
lift the levels,
that was it. Was kind of in that same mold. Obviously, 2 players at different ends of their careers. So I think Scott Green was maybe 34 when he came in, whereas Mark Wilson was what, 21, 20, whatever he would be.
Yeah.
But you talk about the people coming to watch Mark Wilson play or whoever. Was there, obviously you go to Burnley in, well, the end of the 2001 season. Was there any like solid interest before that from other clubs that you were aware of people coming to watch you or maybe making an inquiry or even a cheeky offer?
Not really. I never got told that by any of, obviously, the Wrexham managers or anything like that, to be honest. I was just, coming in every week, playing as well as I could, and that was basically it. And because I was really enjoying the time there, because it was in that my last season, I think I virtually played every single league game. So they were really good days for me, because all you want to do as a footballer is play every game you can.
Yeah,
I know it's a bit different now with the squad rotation, but if you weren't in that starting 11 back in 97, 98, you was thinking, I just want a chance. I want a chance here. I want to get on the pitch. I want to do what I'm here to do. So, no, but I didn't hear nothing, no, to be fair. Snippets in the paper, but you don't really, obviously, look at them, even though they're in the scrapbook. But you don't really concentrate on one that much, to be honest.
Yeah, but that was a time when there was, like, you talk about how it was so important to be in the first team, which it always is in football, but like just the strength and depth we have then. Like when talked before about right back, there was yourself, there was Barry Jones, I think he left by then, but Darren Brace. On the left side, you had Darren and Phil Hardy. You'd have like your Brian Carey, Tony Humes, Dave Riddler coming in.
It was like, and Lee Roach come in, and Dennis Lawrence, and there was loads of people who was coming in to try and lift the levels of the team, and you had to try and stick with them and get better yourself. Yeah. So it's really, digging in at that point to try and be a part of the team, because obviously the manager always wants to progress. So it was, important that you kept yourselves high levels as possible.
Yeah. With the manager of Brian Flynn and tying it into when you left to go to Burnley, looking into it again this week, it was kind of refreshing to see that it was very much, obviously he was disappointed that you left, but it was very much wishing you well, saying you deserved to play at a higher level, which Burnley were at that point, and wishing you all the best in with future success and all that. How was it to leave? Was it because it was a little bit controversial at the time, where the story is that there'd been a 3-year deal agreed in principle to renew and stay at Wrexham. And then there was Burnley and another mystery club who I don't think has ever been revealed to this day, who supposedly came in. But how was that from your point of view, that thinking you're going to stay at Wrexham and then in I guess agreeing to this renewal, but then this other club coming in for you, and how hard a decision it was to leave?
It was really difficult, because, as I said, I was having probably my best year at the club, playing every game, moving into centre half, really enjoying the new position to try and, especially work alongside other central defenders that helped me brilliantly, Brian Carey, obviously, etc. And, I was enjoying it. I was local to home, etc. But it does come a point where you think, is there a time where maybe I can push myself and go another level? Obviously, the interest from Burnley did come in, Championship club, and I don't know whether it was because I scored the goal that got them promoted that year to beat Gillingham. I don't know whether it was something in the back of my mind, or I'm not. You know what? To this day, I still don't know. But it took me a long time to decide. To be fair, a very long time.
Yeah, and how close to the end of your contract did you first get offered something solid from Wrexham, though? Was it late on, or was it offered early? Just thinking from that side of things.
Yeah, it was around. I think it was around February, March time. The offer was put in place, and as I said, it was a good offer. I had no problems with the offer. The only thing I wanted then is probably to do the deal right there and then. And I think the club would hold it out till the end of the season.
Right.
So I was a bit unsure, if I got injured, would they take the offer away from me? Which they easily could have done. But you know, it's hard to go back and ifs or buts and everything. It's like, but you know, I love my time at Wrexham. It was brilliant, and as I said, I've been back numerous times and always like it, and you know, I want to go back in the future as well.
Yeah, when was the last
Wrexham Legends one day?
Well, yeah, that's it. Hopefully, we can get not only get a game going with Wrexham Legends again at some point, but maybe who knows, we can get on the racecourse, get another run out there for you.
Definitely, yeah.
With the Burnley thing, I have to ask with one thing with being at Burnley, because you were at Burnley at the same time as Gazza, which is just mad to think about. But how, like, have you got any Gazza stories in particular, or much interaction with him? Because this is like one of the all-time great characters of the game. Love him or hate him, everybody has an opinion on Gazza.
Yeah. The thing is, I thought I'd done it all because I'm an Everton fan, and when Rushy joined Wrexham, I was like, this guy scores a million goals against Everton. Like, I'm playing with him now. He was like one of the people who you grew up watched, because Gary Lineker was my hero, but Rushy always outscored Gary Lineker in the FA Cup finals, etc. And then obviously I did say Gazza was brilliant, obviously playing for England, etc. And then when he turns up at the training ground, you think, oh, yeah, that's brilliant. This is brilliant. So yeah, I think it was the first day he'd been there. You know, he brings the pot of tea and everything, and while Stan's just about to introduce us at all, it's Gazza like, and he'd put all like farting powder in the big cooking brew. And, you know, Glen Little will probably tell you the same story if you ever speak to him. And he's put and then he's got Jimmy Five Bellies in the shower area and stuff. It's unbelievable. And he's pouring the tea out for everywhere, and then he runs off. Oh, by the way, I've put all farting powder in your cups of tea, like, and then he just shoots off like ready for training kind of thing. It's like, but that was your first insight, and then yeah, just seeing him about the place and the quality he had was brilliant. Just even to being around the guy.
Yeah, you mentioned Glen Little there. He'd go on to become this again, like a kind of cult figure for Wrexham fans in later years. Just to watch as a Wrexham fan, he was just such a level above the level we were playing at, which is the National League, the conference. And it was just, we got him when sadly he couldn't play every game. He'd play halves here and there because he was getting on his body, he was breaking down a little bit. How was Glen to play with though?
Brilliant. Obviously everybody knows his character, but he's the player was brilliant. I think we were playing one game, I can't remember who it was against, maybe Reading, something like that. But I think Sven Gordon Eriksson, who was then the England manager, even come to the game, or it was rumoured to come to the game to watch to see if he had the credibility to even like to come up to see if he could get into the England squad. So even that, just around, you know, that tells you what kind of a player he was. He had everything. He could do everything. I think you probably would have seen the non-league goal that he scored when he takes up half the team and then chips the keeper. Yeah, that's what he could do week in, week out, to be fair. But mainly on the right, providing for crosses for Gareth Taylor, it's another Wrexham player. Yeah, something similar to that. So, but yeah, quality. He was probably, him and Robbie Blake were probably the best players at Burnley at that time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot they got Robbie Blake off. What was it, Bradford? I guess he would have gone from. Was it, or did they go from?
I think we signed maybe Forest. We got from Forest.
Yeah.
Brad. Yeah, but another, I would say, quality. The ball at his feet, he could do everything like as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just a few quick questions to wrap things up with. One that's came in on Twitter, actually, from the Fearless in Devotion podcast, who had a good debate about Wrexham's greatest ever right-backs, actually, a couple of weeks ago. And you were very much in the conversation, just pipped by Carlos Edwards. But to me, Carlos Edwards, I don't know, I'm not saying he's a right-back. It's right wing-back at a push, winger. But
yeah, definitely a winger, right wing-back. But, I mean, Carlos, he could play right-back, probably. And because of his energy levels and his quickness, he'd be probably a bit like Trent now at Liverpool. If he was playing him as a right back.
I'm sure he finished off with Millwall playing right back, I think, as captain when he moved back a little bit down the pitch. I think with Carlos, you probably put him in nets and he'd still be good. Just on his day, he'd do whatever he wanted in the best possible way.
The smile would get him through most games, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And he just God, such a fun player to watch. But yeah, the question that's come in from Fearless and Devotion on Twitter is, I'm sure it's something you're going to enjoy, is they just want a walkthrough of that Gillingham goal that you mentioned earlier. Like, what was it? I was watching it today. I can't make out who passes the ball to you. Just nicely rotated and moved her along. I was thinking, is it Gazza in?
Yeah, I think it was Darren Ferguson. I think.
All right.
Looking back, I think it was Darren Ferguson. And to be fair, my first touch was terrible. It was stuck under my feet because it was a sunny day. It was obviously last game of the season, and it was stuck under my feet. And I was like, there's crowds there and everything. So I just took another touch, and I was like, I didn't really see anything on. So I was just like, because I hadn't scored all season, I thought, oh, what the hell? And I don't know where it come from. To be fair, I wasn't expecting to score. I was just trying to hit the target. And yeah, I turned around because a couple of my mates were in the crowd, and I ran over to them. And I didn't realise how far it was until I watched it back the next day. I think Soccer AM had it on, like, I think they had a feature back in Better Than Pele. And I think she got my name wrong, and all my lads absolutely, my mates, like, whipped me for it. But I thought it was just outside the 18-yard box, but I still say it was like 35 yards even. I don't know how far it was, but it was... No, I loved the goal because that was, as I said, my first goal that season, yeah.
Yeah, I think the consensus amongst Wrexham fans is it's 35 yards. But if that helps, I don't know. Yeah. It might just be one of those of, like, in your head when you're there. It's like, I swear I saw Dave Brammer score from, like, the halfway line once. But if I saw it back, it's probably about the edge of the box. But I'm sticking with 35 on that one. Like, after you went from Wrexham to Burnley to Blackpool, Port Vale, and then was it player manager at it's actually Nomads, but Gap Connors Quay at that point it was.
I did a year at Altrincham first, and then
that was it.
Went to Gap Connors Quay. Yeah, I was player manager for 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, how was it? Because you won the Cymru Alliance twice, technically back to back, wasn't it? Because that's when the Welsh Premier League wouldn't let you up after the first title. Yeah. What was how did you find the whole management? Because there was Runcorn as well, and, like, is that something you're looking to get back into? I mean, are you doing any coaching at the moment? Is this something that you're eager to crack on with?
Yeah, I mean, I've done most of my coaching, but at the minute I'm not. I'm just enjoying my time away and looking and just watching, to be honest. Because at Connors Quay we had a great setup. And sold we sold a few players. Reece Ely being one. We sold him to Cardiff. Obviously, Wrexham fans and like that, but he went on to MK Dons, and now he's playing in France as well. And we sold him as, like, 19-year-old. We had him in the team since 16. With Jay Catton, he was brilliant for me at Connors Quay, and we enjoyed doing that kind of thing to help the youngsters try and move on and get far. So I love that kind of stuff. But at the minute, I'm just watching and seeing where I can and can't do. And, maybe in the future, I might, it's hard to describe. You need the, get the rhythm back in, if you know what I mean. And, really want to take it to the next step. But it's difficult because there's so many people out there who want to do the same thing.
Yeah. And to go back to Wrexham and just run through some quick things, is there one player or a couple of players that come to mind where you think, like, I wish I would have played with them while I was at Wrexham?
I mean, the only one springs to mind would be Joey. If I could play in, he played in a couple of reserves games for me, but, play out there on the pitch in front of the Kop with Joey, say by your side playing centre half. I would have loved that, to be honest. Just the get up and go and trying to, like, over my dead body they will not score kind of thing. I think Joe would be the top one, definitely. Truns, I think I only played with 3-4 months of Truns. Wouldn't have minded a full season with Truns. I'm sure that would have been fun, tricks and games kind of thing.
Yeah, he did all right for himself in the end.
Yeah, definitely.
Not too shabby. Which is there, like, any players you think were massively underrated by the fans, like where you lads knew how good they were, but maybe the fans never quite got on board with them, whether they made it into the first team or were maybe fringe players?
It's a difficult one, that, because I always thought, as playing, we didn't really get that much stick, unless we had a couple of, obviously, 4 or 5 defeats. But I felt all the fans were all usually quite good to us, to be fair. The management team might have picked on a couple of, but they always knew that they'd come good in the end. But I can't really pick out a couple of players that. No, not really, to be honest. I thought we all give a good account of ourselves, especially the seasons where I was obviously playing in.
Yeah.
Rooster, I think, maybe got a couple of stick, maybe, but Rooster was just, if Rooster wasn't playing well, you would know, because the team weren't doing as well. So as soon as Rooster was playing well, it was like the team was playing well, because he was just like the life and soul of the team because of his bouncy energy.
Yeah. Is there I guess it might be hard to pinpoint one, but is there like one favourite Wrexham match that stands out for you when you think of back to your days there?
Birmingham, that's it. Yeah, the Birmingham game. But to be fair, the year later, I think Carl Connolly scored an hat-trick away at Chesterfield.
Yeah.
That put a couple of demons to bed for myself. But no, that Birmingham game, that was really good. Middlesbrough was brilliant as well, but the Birmingham game was always, and Middlesbrough, but they're all FA Cup games, so I'd definitely say the Birmingham game.
I like that you put the Chesterfield one in there, just like spiteful. That's what a lot of fans have, that mentality as well, where we're just like, because it relegated them. I'm sure that relegated them pretty much. So it's like, that's a nice bit of kind of payback. It doesn't take away the FA Cup, but it's something. It's part way there.
You just grip onto anything, yeah.
Yeah. When was the last time you were at the Racecourse?
To be fair, it was a Price Griffiths' funeral.
Right.
So me, Carl, Gary, a few of us went down there, and obviously we're outside, and I thought that was the right thing to do, because he was brilliant back in the day then, for what he did for the club and everything else. So that was the last time, and I got no complaints about going for that. It's I want to get back obviously soon, but it is what it is at the minute, I suppose.
Yeah. And any stories you can tell us about, I don't know, some of the nights out, some of the away trips, the Isle of Man, maybe anything that can, to be fair, it's YouTube and it's a podcast, so we're nothing particularly filtered, but what you might want to say and what you might not want to say, it's down to you, sort of thing. Any just trips that stick out?
Yeah, we went to obviously Isle of Man and Magaluf and a couple of places, but the one that sticks out for me is Bournemouth, to be fair. I think we won the Welsh Cup, and then I'm sure we were playing Wales in a friendly in a build-up for one of their qualifiers. And we went to Bournemouth for about 3 or 4 days. And we were having a round of golf. I think it was on the 3rd tee, and we thought, sod this. So we rang a taxi and off we went to Bargain Booze, kind of. And that was the rest. Can't really remember much about the rest, but I think that was for me. Yeah, that was a good time. The Bournemouth trip,
the hazy Bournemouth trip that started nice and quietly with golf and went off a cliff, I'm sure. Just to get things wrapped up, Macca, it's putting you on the spot. It's asking you a tough old question. Is your all-time Wrexham 11 of players you played with? You can put yourself in there if you want. You don't have to put yourself in there. Just your Wrexham 11 in your mind. I'm
going to put myself in there because I don't think nobody else will. So I've had to think about this, and it's almost as close to the team that I did like 2 to 3 years in, and it was so difficult even then, touch and go. It's like formation, players who you can get in, strikers. It's a nightmare. So I'd go Andy Marriott. I'd put myself right back. Tony and Brian, Tony Hume, Brian Carey, and Phil Hardy. That's the back four. Pretty solid, I think. Midfield, bit lopsided, but I go Chalky. Me and Chalky had a great understanding down the right, and I think we enjoyed our years together. You'd put Yozza in there. I'd play, as I said, it's a bit lopsided, so I'd have Darren Ferguson in there with Gareth Owen. And then you'd go Carl Connolly, Gary Bennett up top.
Not bad at all, that.
There's a goal missing, Neil Roberts, Wayne Phillips. Difficult, but
you'll be getting texts after this. All the lads will be hammering you. Let's send you messages like, "Where was I in this one?"
As I said, I think I'll only be in this team, so I'm happy with that one.
I doubt it. The plan is that as and when we do every one of these episodes, get in whoever to pick their 11. I'm sure Mark McGregor makes an appearance or two at right back or centre half. Who knows?
Oh no, not above them two. I mean, Barry Hunter was close as well. To be fair, it's difficult.
We had a good run of centre half. Then, to be fair, Barry Hunter, Tully Humes, before as well. Mel when Mel came in, Mel Bejic at centre back. It wasn't a bad run. Wasn't a bad knock. It wasn't a bad few years you had at the town, Mark McGregor. What, 6 years?
I think. Well,
in the first team, obviously.
Yeah. So it's like a good 8 years, and loved every minute of it. Yeah, really good. And I always say to whoever asks me now, where would you club? I'd always say Wrexham first time, like straight back there to them days, 96, 97, brilliant.
Yeah. And any closing thoughts for any Wrexham fans listening to this? Hopefully there are some.
Well, hopefully after the 4-0 win last night, they should be pick the tails up a bit. So we've got to crack on, and it's got to change eventually. We can't still stay in the National League for that long. And once you get one, have you seen so many times where the conference teams come up and then they go through the League Two as well? It snowballs, and especially with what's happening behind the scenes now, it's promising and things to look up to, really.
Yeah, totally agree on that one. Mark, thank you so much for giving us so much time to come and join us on the very first episode of the Wrexham Legends Lounge podcast. That's going to be a proper tongue tie to get used to. As in association, as sponsored by Hill Street Social. Next time we do this, it'll probably, hopefully, be in Hill Street Social with a pint in person.
Beautiful. That would taste extremely nice.
It will, hopefully on the house, if Rich Watkins listens to this. Maka, cheers, and thanks everybody for tuning in. If you like this, be sure to subscribe on all the podcast apps that you have. Be sure to like and comment and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching it on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll hopefully have one of these next week again or the week after. It's all very loosey-goosey at the moment, but thanks again, and thanks again to Mark McGregor.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.
Wrexham is the name.